Humble Servant, a story of ZMF headphones. The audiophile community is full of snakes, liars, cheats, scoundrels, the corrupted, corruptible, and those of general disrepute. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Thus far, we have covered the unsanctimonious underbelly of the audiophile world by looking at Chord Electronics, Astle & Kern, and Beyerdynamic. These three represent rather different aspects of the villains in the hi-fi universe. Chord represents those who are self-absorbed, self-indulgent, overly ambitious. They are among the upper echelon of hi-fi society, prizing products into the stratosphere and claiming the cost is definitely worth it. These are like Emperor Palpatine's henchmen and generally target the more wealthy. Astle & Kern represents the blatant liars and cheats. These types of companies will lie to your face, repeat that lie until you don't know what's true. They package mediocrity in sharp edges and then double or triple the price. They are like the Jabba the Hutt of the universe. Beyerdynamic represents the company that never really set out to do wrong. It doesn't have a concerted plan and nefarious schedule to hurt the consumer, but their pig-headed and stupid mistakes show them to be incompetent or simply uncaring towards the consumer. Beyerdynamic is the type of company that simply can't get its head around the fact that consumers come first. They are the Imperial Stormtroopers. But there is hope. Although the purpose of BS Reviews is to shed light on the types of companies we just mentioned, it is also to highlight those that rise above the filth. And today, we shall do just that. In this episode of the BS Review, we take a look at a company that is humble in its beginnings, has passion for its products, shows respect to its customers, and provides a truly unique experience. In preparing for this video, I contacted ZMF Headphones and asked if they would be willing to answer a few of my questions. They were. Indeed, the co-founders of the company, Bevan and Zach Meerbach, were quite open and helpful. It would be improper if I did not extend my thanks to the Meerbachs for their time. In fact, Bevan Meerbach was instrumental in asking Zach to review and answer my questions. So, thank you to Bevan and Zach. Now, let's talk about ZMF headphones and their devotion to audiophiles. Chapter 1. The Humble Servant. You might have heard of Cincinnatus. He was once a Roman leader. Out of office, he went to farming, work considered for the poor. One day, Rome faced an enemy they could not defeat. The Roman Senate came to Cincinnatus while he worked in the fields and begged him to raise an army and defend Rome. Cincinnatus agreed. He gathered a large army, marched to meet the enemy, and defeated them. When he returned to Rome, he was the most powerful man around. He had wealth and power. He could have done anything he wanted, to anyone. But, to everyone's surprise, Cincinnatus disbanded his army. He went back to his farm. He had risen to the occasion, done what was required, and returned to what he loved, working in the fields. The story of Cincinnatus is inspiring. A man with total power is a man corrupt, but not Cincinnatus. He showed that despite having wealth and power, one can still be humble and serve the people. ZMF Headphones carries Cincinnatus's humility, I think. Unlike Chord, Astle & Kern, and Beyerdynamic, and many others, as we'll come to find out soon enough, ZMF is the humble farmer. They are masters of their art. They could command followers and dictate propaganda much like the companies of ill repute. But ZMF is happy to keep tilling in their field, much to our benefit. Chapter 2. It starts with meek beginnings. Every good story starts with a meek protagonist. Luke Skywalker was a moisture farmer on some backwoods world without the woods. Neo was a daydreaming hacker working a dead-end job. And Arnold Schwarzenegger was a bodybuilder from Austria. Each of these characters achieved greatness because they had a passion, a strong belief in something bigger than they. For Luke Skywalker, It was the belief that the empire was evil and he would do anything to fight against it. Neo, for his part, realized that humanity was enslaved and he was prepared to do his portion to help free it. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, having achieved human perfection, became an android to kill, maim, and make witty one-liners.
Knock, knock.
Everybody likes a good story. People like to see a realistic struggle that is overcome by determination, focus, and strength. We cannot relate to corporations and CEOs and multi-million-dollar negotiations. It is hard to sympathize with someone who never knew the burden of paying off student loan debts or struggled to start a business. However, it is my position that ZMF Headphones is a company founded by a man who did have these difficulties, a man with whom most of us can relate. The company was tentatively started by Zach Mirbach. He had no intention of becoming the audiophile community's household name. Instead, he started rather quietly. Zach briefly indicated his biography in a Reddit post a few years ago, but with a bit of digging, there's a bigger picture to behold. Zach, as I said, had no plans to become a headphone maker. I mean, he may have enjoyed music, but I seriously doubt he wrote Santa Claus letters every Christmas and asked for headphones to sell. He grew up building acoustic guitars in his parents' basement. That, I guess, is one way to pass the time. No, you see, Zach's passion was film. He went to Columbia Film School after graduating from college, and he paid a pretty penny for it too. Zach says that he was swimming in student loan debts. He was near graduating from Columbia in 2013 and realized he still had a long way to go before he could swim in money instead of debt. It's like the difference between swimming in an empty pool versus one full of money. This is largely an American problem. Many of other first world countries pay for educating their young people. In America, we just put them into financial bondage, which is frankly not the fun type of bondage. Anyway, I assume that Zach had moments when he freaked out, but he found a way to deal with it. He says he would spend his time tinkering with headphones. According to him, he used to purchase the Fostex T50RP headphones and then modify them. He would then give those modified headphones to friends and family as gifts. People apparently liked what he did. So, in order to help pay his debts to the government-sanctioned knee-breaker program called the College Tuition Pyramid Scheme, Zach decided to sell his modified T50RP. And he became extremely successful. I mean, obviously. And what about the company name ZMF? Well, it stands for Zach Mirbach Films. That's right, he didn't think he was going to do this headphone sales pitch full-time. He thought he could make some money, pay off his debts at some point, and move on with his life. But clearly, that's not exactly what happened. Zach now splits his time. He is still part of ZMF. I mean, the company does have his name on it. Indeed, it appears that some of his family is involved in the business. Zach is still designing new concepts, working to make people happy. Oh, and he's also teaching at the same film school from which he graduated. Nice. Now the school pays him. Why all this info about someone you will likely never meet? Because it's a face, a person you can identify with. Zach is not some faceless, money-grabbing, half-human, half-reptile dressed as the CEO of Chord Electronics or Astral & Kern or Aerodynamic. Instead, Zach is, if his autobiography is accurate, a man of humble beginnings. He grew up tinkering with guitars, built them by hand, and clearly understood what sound is. He had a passion for film and pursued it. Even while in difficult financial straits, Zach continued to give. He gifted modified headphones to family and friends. And when he realized that might be a good side job, he offered headphones to others so he could pay off his student loan debt. Most people can identify with that. Who hasn't had dreams as a child? Who hasn't had a passionate goal and had financial difficulty? Who hasn't stumbled into a hobby or a job they love? This is the man you're doing business with. Doing business with a large corporation has innate benefits, I know. For example, they are a known quantity. But somehow, I can't help but feel drawn to ZMF. Maybe it's the underdog story. We Americans, no matter how much we love to talk about how we're the most bestest ever, we still love the underdog. We fight for the underdog. We cheer for the underdog. Because, frankly, we used to be one. We identify with the people who arrive on the scene with little, only to achieve great things. And so, here is Zach Mirbach. And here is ZMF. the underdog. Chapter 3. Slow and steady wins the race. Do you recall the fable of the turtle and the hare? The two agreed to race, and the hare thought he had it in the bag. The race started and the hare raced off, left the poor slow turtle in the dust. The hare kept running and running until he stopped. He found a shaded spot under a tree and decided to sit for a while. He knew the turtle was way far off and he could spare a few minutes to rest. The hare rested and rested and rested. He fell asleep. All of a sudden, he awoke and panicked. He didn't know how long it had been since he had slept under the tree. He picked himself up and raced towards the finish line, confident he was still quite ahead of that poor little turtle. As it turned out, when the hare reached the finish line, he saw that the turtle was already sitting across from it. Hi-fi companies are like the hare. They think they're so much further ahead of the curve. The problem with them is that they are complacent. Complacency breeds a lot of bad habits, lack of imagination, laziness, dishonesty, and apathy. When companies become overconfident in their proprietary designs, they stop innovating. They focus only on that one little design, thinking it's the golden cow that will soon spew money at them. This turns into laziness. They stop putting effort into new ideas. This leads to dishonesty towards themselves and, more importantly, towards the customer. They lie about the features of their products, over-promising things, and finally, when they do get caught by the consumer, when they get complaints, these companies are apathetic towards the customer, won't address the problems, won't make things right. This has been the cycle of every company we have looked at so far in the BS review. Chord's misplaced self-confidence prevents them from innovating. No, Chord, I don't think it's innovative to charge $2,000 for a product. Chord is utterly lazy in its products, failing to think how they could be of more use in the future. Chord lied to customers through its Reviewer Collaborators program about the Mojo, and when people complained, Chord did nothing to solve the problems. You could say the same for Astle & Kern. They didn't reinvent the digital audio player, though from their marketing you'd think otherwise. They don't invent anything. They have no proprietary technology, no unique spin or usability or sound. They are shockingly dishonest about their products, and they don't give a shit what you think. I mean, it is an iRiver company after all. Beyerdynamic follows the same parameters, stuck in its uber-simplistic German bullshit. Beyerdynamic refuses to change. It won't add minor changes to its headphones even when those changes would only benefit their products and provide the customer with more options. Beyerdynamic doesn't listen to feedback unless it increases their bottom line. They mislead the customer about the features of their products, though certainly not to the same extent as Astle & Kern. You see, the other companies we just mentioned run the race quickly. They get ahead of the competition, then sit and sleep. They do nothing to change. They don't innovate. They are too self-confident to realize they're 1. Abusing the customer's trust, and 2. Losing to the small guy. ZMF is the small guy. Zach said that he wants to keep his company small. He'd like to mass-produce headphones someday, but he's quite happy keeping things manageable for the foreseeable future. In a Reddit conversation, he said, quote, "I do hope to make a more mass-market type headphone someday, but I really like what we're doing now, and I love interacting with people, so I wouldn't want to grow so fast that I lost that." Customer service is paramount. You've heard me say that repeatedly on my channel. I have no patience for companies that treat consumers with anything less than respect and courtesy. All the other 3 companies we reviewed in the BS review have demonstrated their utter contempt for the customer. I'm happy to say, and without hesitation, that ZMF doesn't fall into the viper's den with the others. I can say through my own experience with this company that ZMF has exceptional service. But that comes from the top of the ladder, doesn't it? If your leader is an immoral, self-absorbed, greedy bastard, then that will be the character of the company. When asked about mass-producing headphones and using funds to focus more on bringing down the cost, Zach responded, quote, "It's much easier for us currently to focus on extremely high-quality, lower production output headphones and then use our R&D funds and scaling to find the best way to make more mass production-friendly headphone while not sacrificing quality and the customer service that I'd like to continue to offer." Yes, I know this is a rather self-serving statement, but it has the hallmarks of an honest one. I'll give you an example. If Zach was truly interested in money and nothing else, then his primary goal would be to focus on mass production. Currently, the only prohibition against ZMF skyrocketing is the very hefty price for their headphones. That's a natural barricade against a deluge of orders. If ZMF focused on securing a Chinese company for parts and a Chinese manufacturer to assemble the headphones and a Chinese distributor to ship the products, then ZMF could drive the cost down significantly. Imagine, the current price for the Atticus, the cheapest dynamic headphone from ZMF, is $1,100. But if ZMF could mass manufacture this headphone, it could drive the cost down to $600 or $700, all of a sudden within the reach of a lot of people. The more ZMF could sell, the more money they'd make. But that's not Zach's focus. Customer service is. You might argue that I'm being overly generous to ZMF. Oh, NTR, I thought you weren't a sellout. Very funny. I paid for all my ZMF headphones, full cost by the way. I reached out to ZMF for information. The only benefit I received from ZMF is a free t-shirt with my last order. I'd say that's not quite enough incentive for me to become a shill. Although, hey Zach, if you want to send me the Verite clothes, that would be totally awesome. I'm being absolutely serious. When I do these BS reviews, I look at the company's words and their actions. Words can be misinterpreted, acts can be misunderstood, but the combination of the two, what people say and do, shows the true intent. For example, if I say I hate the DT1770 and they are the worst headphones in the world, but keep the headphones on my wall, that has a confused message. If I sell the headphones, but say nothing negative about the 1770, that says I just didn't want the headphones anymore. But if I say that the 1770 are among the worst headphones ever, which they are, and sell them immediately, which I did, and then continue to tell people not to buy the 1770, which you shouldn't, then that's a very specific message. By contrast, Astle & Kern says that their players have mastering quality sound, and make it appear as if they are offering something amazing. But their players are nothing unique and nothing special. There's no proprietary technology there. They only use marketing like a sleazy used car salesman tries to convince you that all the fly honeys are gonna totally love you in that used but good condition Honda Accord with the mismatched driver's side door. Consequently, you can conclude that Astle & Kern are lying bastards who need to be sued. ZMF's conduct and words have a cohesiveness. Let's talk about the words first. Discussing more planar headphone options, Zach said, quote, I really enjoy the way both planar and dynamic headphones sound. They both require a lot of special attention to get the sound correct or suited to my tastes. I don't want to release a planar just to have a planar though. I would hope to do something a little unique, which can be tough in a landscape that has so many of them right now. In summary, Zach says he wants to do something unique with his planars and doesn't just want to dump another headphone with planar drivers into the market. He says he is concentrating on providing something different. Now, take a look at the actions. When you go to ZMF's website, you can select between the dynamic and planar headphone pages. The planar headphone webpage has three: Zach's original modification of the T50RP, the Ori, and the Blackwood. The Ori, previously named the Omni, has been in ZMF's catalog since at least 2015. Same with the Blackwood. So, for the past 4 years, ZMF hasn't inundated the market with more planar headphones. You could argue this is simply laziness, that ZMF thinks this is the pinnacle of achievement and isn't innovating. True, I suppose that is an argument. I will offer a sobering counter-argument, however. Audeze has too many planar magnetic headphones. Although there is a noticeable difference in sound between the cheapest and most expensive headphones, all the ones in between become harder and harder to distinguish. Indeed, the majority of Audeze's headphones have such slight differences in sound that you might feel a bit cheated after upgrading from the LCD3 to the LCD4. But I suppose it's nice to have the options, right? Once again, if ZMF was interested only in money, they would have made minor tweaks in their planar headphones and sold them as new versions. But that's not the case. In short, focusing on customer support will result in something much more valuable than short-term financial gain. Making the best products you can while providing excellent customer service means you're laying a foundation, creating a fan base that will continue to buy your products and will continually refer others to do the same. Taking the slow path to success might mean you don't finish first, but at least you'll finish with cheers. Chapter 4. Yes, we do not offer plethoras. A few moments ago, I told you that the differences between the LCD3 and the LCD4 are minute, if any. I stick by that. I have tested both back to back. The LCD3 cost $2,000. The LCD4 cost $4,000. Whatever little differences in sound signature are easily and quite vociferously drowned out by your wallet crying in pain, your wife screaming for a divorce, your children whimpering in fear of being homeless, and the lawyer from the bank saying foreclosure is imminent. I, for my part, avoid these issues by not being married, hating children, and not having a house to mortgage. My wallet still cries, though, and my dogs look at me like I'm an idiot. They may have a point. Oftentimes, companies release a plethora of headphones in a category, just to confuse you. What's a plethora, you ask?
Many piñatas?
Oh yes, many.
Would you say I have a plethora of piñatas?
A what?
A plethora.
Oh yes, you have a plethora.
Take a look at Sennheiser. They have so many headphones it makes my head hurt. Just in their 500 series, Sennheiser has 7 headphones, and the sound differences amongst these? Minor. Grado Labs also has this problem. They branch off headphones into series. The Prestige is their entry level and has 5 other series. The Prestige series, the lowest rung on the ladder of stupidity, has 5 headphones. Each headphone has a slight tweak, but the price is obviously higher each headphone down the line. How many times have you looked for a pair of headphones from Beyerdynamic and been confused? Let's say you're interested in the DT770 or 880. Fine, you think you'll want the 880, but how many ohms? 32, 250, or 600? Or maybe if you get the 990 at 250 ohms, would that give you the same signature as the 880 at 600 ohms? This is idiotic, but that's Beyerdynamic for you. The option to choose impedance is, I guess, great, but very confusing for the vast majority of people. ZMF also has plenty of headphone options, at least in the dynamic range. They have 6 different headphones: Aeolus, Atticus, Icon, Auteur, Verite, and Verite Closed. And each headphone has a choice of wood, though not every headphone has multiple wood options. I have the Aeolus, Atticus, Icon, and Auteur. I can say without hesitation that all 4 have different sound characters, noticeably different, that is. The Atticus has a visceral bass response, sharp and fast and accurate. It has significant treble energy. The Aeolus is a soft, soothing headphone. It has no harshness to it at all. The Icon has more subdued bass response than the Atticus, but still retains treble energy that isn't present in the Aeolus. It has a deep bass response that even the Atticus can't fully reproduce. The Auteur is an all-rounder headphone, fairly neutral compared to the others, unemphasized bass and no harsh treble frequency. It's safe to say that if someone listened to these headphones back to back, they will immediately hear a difference from one to the other. I cannot say that for headphones made by Sennheiser, Beyerdynamic, Sony, AKG, Audeze, or many others. Indeed, other companies decide upon a driver for a series of headphones, say the Sennheiser HD500 series. They then slightly tweak the sound signature here and there, but still try to retain a particular house sound signature. In other words, Sennheiser is known to emphasize the mids more than other frequencies, unless of course you're talking about the HD700 or 800. That's Sennheiser's house sound, generally on the warmer side, intimate mids. They don't want to change that since they're afraid the change will lose customers. All other companies I mentioned do similarly. They decide a sound signature and try very hard to stick to it, and fail to see that change, in fact, is good. ZMF, however, seems to take a different tack. Instead of creating a particular house sound, ZMF's theory seems to be, what do I want to hear today? I asked Zach this question, quote, what is the process you go through when you decide on a particular sound signature for a pair of headphones? For example, What made you choose the signature for the Atticus versus the Icon? Zach responded, quote, I am both trying to optimize what works best with a particular driver and tune to my subjective preferences, so it's a balance between working with what's given based on the qualities of the driver and moving it in the direction of what sounds fulfilling to me. I also intend to make our headphones sound different from each other so that there is a variance within our lineup while keeping this same general essence that some people call our house sound. Based on my experience, I would agree with Zach. All ZMF headphones I have heard have noticeably different sound signatures. However, I would not say that ZMF has a house sound. With such variances amongst the headphones, it would be a stretch to say that ZMF has a house sound to which every headphone subscribes. It is very difficult to find such glaring differences in, for example, the HD500 series. I own several Sennheiser HD500 headphones, and I can tell you that sound signature is difficult to distinguish. Yes, there are indeed some differences, but that's like saying this wall is white while the other one is off-white. It's just slightly different shades of difference. This is why it is so confusing for people. Which headphones do you buy? Let's assume you have a fixed budget, but several headphones in a company's lineup falls into that category. You look online for reviews and find vague comments about them. It has buttery sound with a candy-like finish and very analog sound that reminds the reviewer of a soft thunderstorm in the month of August in 1972. But ZMF, they offer so much more. Of course, that doesn't mean that you're going to like every one of ZMF's headphones. You might only like one of the headphones, or you may hate all of them. That just comes down to taste. But I'd rather have a full Thanksgiving meal spread atop a table from ZMF than the shades of Swiss cheese that other companies provide. You see, when you love your job, you'll put effort into it. When you love your work, you'll want it to be unique. Having options for the sake of increasing revenue isn't passionate. It's simply a corporate bottom line. One thing I can say quite definitively about ZMF is that it's not a corporation in the sense that Sennheiser, Beyerdynamic, and Sony are. Whereas those companies play it safe, ZMF is willing to take their time, experiment, and take risks. That is the hallmark of an innovator. Chapter 5. Knock on Wood. You may hate the ZMF design concept. It's bulky, woody, and nothing modern. Whereas companies are making headphones out of plastic or resin to reduce the weight and streamlining the design and painting them black or gray, ZMF is taking the opposite path. ZMF likes that wood. Zach has said that the wood has some sound qualities. He's quick to point out, however, that the wood doesn't change the sound. ZMF has a webpage dedicated to the types of wood they use. On that webpage, they explain that the wood has transience properties, how slowly or quickly the sound is dissipated because of the size of the pores in the different types of wood. On their FAQ webpage, ZMF says, quote, the wood used to make each cup will have a slight effect on the timbre of the headphone, but does not affect the frequency response of the headphone. This means that things like decay, speed, and transient attack are slightly affected by wood choice, while the frequency response attributes remain the same. They further suggest that people pick the type of wood that looks best to them, since that's the only factor that will actually matter. If there's a gripe about ZMF, it's twofold. The price, which we'll get to in a bit, and the woods. I don't mind that ZMF has wood selections. In fact, I like it. But I'd prefer ZMF to make it abundantly clear to everyone on each headphone sales page that the wood has no significant effect and that the sound signature remains unchanged. I come across people who believe that headphones' ear cups play a significant role in the sound signature. I keep telling them it's not true. It doesn't matter if you place the head driver in plastic, metal, resin, wood, the sound signature, the frequency response, stays the same. How fast the sound waves dissipate will be affected slightly. Some might call that a sound character, but it actually isn't. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that the difference in decay is so insignificant that you'd be hard-pressed to notice it between plastic and metal and resin and wood. I'll give ZMF credit for having a webpage dedicated to their woods and an FAQ that honestly explains that the wood doesn't make the sound change, but I think that the information should be in the forefront, not in some FAQ or about sub-menu. Having said that, I must admit that the wood options are something quite unique. Those who are overcome with flashy bling bling might feel compelled to buy this year's auteur over last year's because of the new wood finish. Well, that's a personal issue. It's merely a change in aesthetics. But I can completely relate to that overwhelming desire. Chapter 6. Ouch! My wallet just punched my spleen! Alright, it's time for that part of the video where I tell there's a catch to all this positivity. And there is a catch. It's the price. ZMF headphones cost an arm and 3 legs. If you want to buy one of ZMF's modified T50RP headphones, then you're going to spend at least $700. That's a ton of money to pay for a mod. Indeed, all other T50RP mods come at significantly less price. The Mayflower mod is $265, an odd price. The Mod House Argons are $245, and Fostech's own modification, the T60RP, is $300. So ZMF charges hundreds more for their version, albeit you can buy the classic version without the wood trimmings for $300. Then there is the next stratosphere where the dynamic driver headphones live, starting at $1,100 and upwards past $2,000. That's quite a pill to swallow. It's cost prohibitive for most people. Indeed, when a lot of audiophiles have to skimp and save for months to afford an HD 600 or 700, the thought of having to save for a year for the ZMF Atticus or Aeolus or Verite sounds daunting, and it is. But this brings us back to the beginning of our discussion. When asked about mass-producing headphones, Zach said he'd like to do that but retain the service, quality, and uniqueness of his headphones. It's hard to achieve those goals and bring down the cost at the same time. It is certainly possible to accomplish, but for a small company, it's not immediately attainable. I asked Zach about this. I questioned, quote, "Do you plan to release headphones in the sub-$1,000 category? And if so, what is the timeline?" Zach responded, quote, "Sometime in the next year and a half, this is something we plan to do. We don't have a specific release date yet, but it's one of our priorities. It is important to us because we want to be able to be accessible to more people, especially younger people. We are just working to make sure that there are no compromises to quality or our values to be able to do it." That's quite the promise. I have heard and read about companies making such comments, and it rarely pans out. It is a tricky balancing act of maintaining profits while decreasing costs to the consumer. But that's where the total number of sales comes in. The more a company sells, the more it will earn. At present, however, people have to justify a ZMF purchase over $1,000, and that's not easy to do. Of course, there's also the group of individuals who will never buy a ZMF headphone. Whether it's the head-thumping price tag or the rage-inducing 6 to 8 week wait period or the style or the sound signature, some people won't be swayed by ZMF, and that's a good thing. Don't be swayed by what others say. Don't give in to the hype, though in ZMF's case, I have to admit, I think the hype is almost well-deserved. Why almost? Well, because ZMF still has some issues. Chapter 7. There is always room for improvement. I try very hard to have realistic expectations. In ZMF's case, I have to account for the company's small size and limited resources. There are things I can accept and have lived with when ordering 4 headphones. One of those is the 6 to 8 week build time. I am willing to forgive this lengthy period since each headphone is made to order by hand. That is a unique experience. However, there are other things that make me a little irritated, things that should be considered and hopefully altered. A. The sub-$1,000 headphone better be real sub. If ZMF is able to release headphones under $1,000, people would be quite intrigued. But that sub-$1,000 number would have to be a real sub number. For example, companies price products at $999 and say it is sub-$1,000. That's technically correct, but those bastards are messing with our minds. The current lowest cost ZMF dynamic headphone is about $1,100. If ZMF released a headphone at $999, then why wouldn't the buyer just pay the additional $100 and get the better quality materials? No, I think that the sub-$1,000 headphone makes sense only if it is at least 33% cheaper than the next most expensive headphone. Why? Because the difference between $1,100 and $1,000 is only 10%. That's the type of discount Macy's gives for shopping on a Wednesday. I believe to entice more people towards ZMF, the company needs to target the market correctly. Let us assume that ZMF creates a high-quality sub-$1,000 headphone for casual listening, slightly bumped bass, boosted mids, and rolled-off treble. That's the sound signature most people are used to. I can imagine the Beyerdynamic T1 2nd Gen falling into that category of sound. So too the AudioQuest Nighthawk and the audeze LCD2. The T1 costs $700, the Nighthawk $250, the LCD2 costs $900. To make a dent, I believe ZMF would have to undercut audeze by a respectable amount. I submit that a 33% lower price than the currently lowest costing ZMF headphone would do nicely. What is 33% less than $1,100? Well, it's approximately $800. At that price, ZMF does legitimately have a sub-$1,000 headphone. It undercuts audeze, and at $800, it forces people to choose between Beyerdynamic and a new and upcoming well-regarded company in ZMF headphones. That is the type of competition and choice I like. If current Beyerdynamic owners were considering the T1 but saw that the ZMF had a headphone that competed at only another $100 more expensive, that might be enticing to them. For $100 more, those people could try something different, something hopefully unique, something not Beyerdynamic or AKG or audeze or Sennheiser. B. The cables have got to be better. I wish ZMF would ship better cables with their headphones. The standard flat cables seem ugly and cheap and frankly are too short for me. I feel that if I pay at least $1,100 for headphones, I should get a braided cable with a choice of colors. I feel I should get more than just one cable, a short cable and a long set. Currently, ZMF has their stock cable which comes standard. You can buy an extra stock cable for $50. They also offer 4 other cables, priced between $200 and $400. That is simply unacceptable. I have found no scientific evidence that more expensive cables change the sound of a headphone. People who spend hundreds of dollars on a single cable are wasting money. I understand if ZMF offers those cables. Hell, if some genius wants to spend $400 on a cable, then ZMF should be happy to oblige. I'm okay with taking money from the purposefully stupid. But I'm not okay with the lack of choices for the rest of us. Look, there is no reason to force us to choose between either the stock cable or the ridiculously more expensive cables. There needs to be something for the average, normal, logical, reasonable individual. Is there a solution, NTR? Yes, in fact there is. If ZMF does not have the ability to make alternatives to their standard cable, then they should partner with a company that does. Periapt Cables comes to mind. I have purchased many cables from them and have been very happy every time. Periapt offers cables for various headphones, will tailor the cable terminations to whatever you like, 3.5mm, balanced XLR, or a 1/4 inch, and will let you decide a sleeve color. If ZMF were to partner with Periapt, they could purchase a large order of cables at a discount and sell the Periapt cables at a slightly higher price than their standard cable. When purchasing a headphone, people would have a choice between the standard cable, no additional cost, the Periapt cable, an additional cost of say $50 or so, and the ludicrous cables at $200 or $400. Everyone wins. The customer actually has a meaningful choice in the cable, ZMF gets to make a little more money and provide an improved customer experience, and Periapt gets business. You might argue, why would a customer pay another $50 for a cable? Well, why would a customer pay $1,100 for the Atticus? Because they want it. And an additional cost of $50 for a unique and bespoke cable is a cost that people can justify, since they already justified $1,100. C. A display case would be very welcome. I have unboxed many headphones, amplifiers, DACs, and other audiophile gear. The most impressive packaging has come from the Oppo PM1, Klipsch Heritage HP3 headphones, and the AudioQuest Nighthawk and Night Owl. The PM1's case and presentation is luxurious. It is clearly over the top, but frankly, really nice. The HP3 has an outstanding transparent case that lets you see the headphones, which are nestled securely inside. You could place the box on a mantle next to the photos of your dogs. AudioQuest headphones do not have the same packaging as the other ones we mentioned, but their overall presentation is superb. The headphones come in a sturdy faux leather zipper case. On the left side are manuals and paperwork in full high-res color. On the right side are the headphones securely placed. Indeed, AudioQuest packaging shows you don't need to spend time over-engineering a box, just present it in a colorful and organized manner. ZMF headphones come with a Seahorse protective case, sometimes standard, sometimes as an add-on. Regardless, those cases are made for keeping your semi-automatic safe while doing something nefarious in the desert. They're not really for luxurious presentation of $1,100 headphones. As ZMF gets more business and makes more money, I hope they will start presenting headphones with proper packaging. But for now, they could add a bit of flair to the Seahorse cases. With a bit of effort, they could design some art that could be painted on the boxes. I shall give some examples. Upon ordering, the customer could be given the choice of a standard box, just the plain Seahorse case, or for a nominal fee, get a designer box. They could choose to have an all red or an all yellow box, or they could choose to have one of several designs spray painted on a box. These designs could be the outline of the headphone ordered or some other art that ZMF finds appropriate. ZMF could order some pre-cut stencils and spray paint the boxes within minutes. By offering this option, ZMF provides another factor to help the buyer make their headphones truly unique. And since ZMF need only spend a little time designing and ordering some stencils, the additional cost to the buyer would be insignificant, $10 to maybe $15. Once again, ZMF offers a bit more customer choice in this case, helps the customer feel as if they are even more invested in the purchase, more than just the money, and ZMF gets to make a little bit more money themselves. D. ZMF should offer monthly payments. Audeze and Allo Audio offer monthly payments for their headphones. Audeze uses Affirm, and Allo uses pre-selected monthly deductions from your PayPal account. This is a good idea to grab more customers. Even when someone has decided to spend $1,000 on new headphones, it's not an easy thing to do. And if you are trying to increase your customer base, you will need to find a way to reach those who are simply unable to afford $1,000 purchases. Currently, ZMF does not have any monthly payment options. This is a missed opportunity in my opinion. I asked Zach about this. I said, quote, "Do you plan to offer any type of pay-as-you-play type financing other than PayPal credit?" In other words, Audeze offers Affirm financing and some hi-fi online resellers offer their own monthly payment installment plan. Do you intend to offer any such monthly payment option? Zach responded, "Right now, we only plan on using PayPal. We like PayPal because it has a global reach, but if in the future we find other ways to provide payment options, we will consider them as long as they seem sensible for all involved." In a way, Zach does seem to agree monthly payments is a nice option. PayPal does offer credit, but it is no different from having a credit card, and PayPal's credit terms are not exactly flattering. However, ZMF could implement the feature that Allo Audio has. ZMF could have the customer pay a percentage of the cost upfront, then draw monthly from the PayPal account. I can understand this might make some people a bit queasy. What if the customer shuts down the PayPal account or blocks the payment after getting the headphones? Well, a person has to have a valid bank account or credit card associated with their PayPal account to make a purchase to begin with. Further, no one can just close their PayPal account while there is a balance to pay off. I can understand the hesitation in offering more flexible monthly payments, but risk is part of growth. Yes, some people will try to scam the system. They would not be the first to try, and the system is designed to hunt them down. A lot like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, and just in case you're still worried, ZMF could write off the loss of headphones on their tax filings. Not a great solace, I know. You might think that I'm being too picky. That might be true. I need something to be picky about or this review is going to be too positive. But really, I believe my gripes are legitimate. I really like ZMF. They make excellent products. They have outstanding customer service. They absolutely deserve to be noticed in the ocean of mediocre companies. But in order to stand out, they must take the extra little steps. I am happy ZMF doesn't flood their website with 50 headphones like Sennheiser, Beyerdynamic, Shure, Sony, and AKG do. I am glad that ZMF has the small company quirks. But being small does not mean you shy away from punching above your weight. Indeed, ZMF headphones, in my opinion, easily competes with the big boys. I think the options I outlined above would be just a bit more knockout power to the right hook. Look, Zach, if you are listening, people buy your stuff because they like it, trust it. You want them to come back. You want to make them feel as if they are important, are part of a larger community. Every little thing counts, especially when you are starting, growing, and continually reinventing your company. And frankly, for the price you charge for your headphones, I think your customers deserve a few more options. Conclusion. It was a nice break to upload a positive video about a company. There is so much to like about ZMF that the minor issues I discussed previously are, well, I have to confess, minor. They could be easily dismissed, but I hope such concerns could be addressed in the future. I doubt anyone from ZMF watches my videos. I'll have a greater chance of jumping on the couch and landing on the moon than hoping that people at ZMF will subscribe to my channel. But for the sake of argument, let us assume that someone at ZMF has watched this video. If that is the case, there are a few takeaways for your company and things that any buyer should be aware of. ZMF makes excellent products in my opinion, but the fit and finish, the packaging, and the accessories could do with a little bit more polish. I know ZMF spends time building headphones and thinking of new ideas, but one of those ideas should be adding the extra touch to the buying experience, something that the buyer will immediately appreciate. Your company already stands apart from others by being driven, focused, honest, and daring. Be the same and make the slight changes I suggested. This is also a warning to ZMF fans or those who aspire to buy ZMF headphones. You should not let small things like this slip by. When you pay as much as ZMF demands for its headphones, you should in return demand the full kit. It's like ordering pizza, opening the box, and realizing the toppings aren't evenly distributed. The fit and finish does matter. Just as ZMF is still in the process of growing and inventing, you have the chance to help them see where the extra touches can improve the experience. This is even more important since Zach seems open to communicate. Although I can happily say that ZMF is a company I recommend, I'm concerned that we may forget we actually have an opportunity to be heard, miss the fact that we can have a positive change in how a company operates. However, I am proud to say that ZMF is a company that is definitely worth a positive review. You, ZMF, do your job humbly and for the love of it. Well done. If you've enjoyed this content or any of my other content, then please consider supporting my channel on Patreon. My reviews and commentary are based on personal user experience, research, and costs out of my own pocket. I don't get sponsorship from companies, I don't get paid by them, I don't have ad revenue. I ask only that you consider donating a few dollars a month to help me keep this channel going. Every little bit helps. If you have a request for me to review a product I currently own, please visit the review request form in the description section below. If you like my content but have not subscribed, then please consider subscribing. I really do love to see notifications about new subscribers every day. I hope that all of you have a wonderful day and do take care.